Hey guys, Indie Explorer here. If I were to ask you what year Ender Lilies is probably taking place in, assuming it is taking place on some version of Earth, of course, what would you say? 1200 AD perhaps in the Gothic era? Maybe a little later when the High Middle Ages were underway? Regardless of the exact year, the game clearly seems to be taking place well in the past, but after making some curious discoveries, I seriously question whether this is actually the case. It all starts with a very conspicuous object sitting atop a table in the ruined castle, a gramophone, and they can actually be seen on many tables in the castle as well as in the coven. Elaine even has one sitting on her desk. In case you didn't already know, the gramophone is a sound-playing device most commonly used for music, and this particular form of the gramophone was not invented until 1898. How can this be? In isolation, it could perhaps be considered an accidental chronological discrepancy, but upon closer inspection, this turns out to be just one of many such anomalies. In the background of Théoden's memory, we can clearly see a pressure gauge that he was using for his experiments, and not just any pressure gauge. This is a Borden gauge, which was not invented until 1848. On a table behind it, we see an object that looks suspiciously like a light bulb, which was of course not invented until 1879. And on the floor, we can see what appear to be blood transfusion tubes hooked up to Muriel, except the first human blood transfusions were not carried out until 1795. Out in the Verboten, we find a twisting pattern on several ancient windows that could possibly represent a DNA strand, which fits the overall vibe of the Verboten very well, seeing how it's made to look like the inside of a living creature, and the blight can apparently change a person's DNA. However, the double helix structure of DNA was not discovered until 1953. There are two straightforward explanations for these oddities. First, the colonists may have been more technologically advanced than the ancients and brought these tools and knowledge with them, and this could even explain why they were able to beat the entrenched ancients in spite of them having immortal warriors. I find this explanation quite unlikely, however, for one simple reason. If the colonists really were centuries ahead, why would they abandon most of their technology? And why are these objects treated like rare relics? If such things were commonplace only a few generations earlier, it wouldn't make much sense for them to have all but disappeared by the time of the game. The second explanation to this mystery is that the world was torn apart by some widespread catastrophe, perhaps endless wars so severe that they caused all of society to regress by centuries. We know that both the ancients and colonists were very warlike peoples that conquered other nations, so this is certainly within the realm of plausibility. This could also provide an explanation as to why the colonists left their own continent in the first place. Maybe they were trying to escape such wars, or the difficulties of a land ravaged by war, and set out to find somewhere they could finally be safe. The examples I've shown so far have all been admittedly quite subtle, but there are others which are far more glaring and, significantly, originated with the ancients. First and foremost, the floating metal mines. They can be found in the Stockade and the Verboten, and while the underwater mines seem normal enough, what about those floating in the air? What kind of technology is keeping these heavy metal objects suspended indefinitely without making any noise? There are also several mines programmed to move autonomously that are still functioning after a long period of time without any maintenance. Another curious detail is that these objects are extremely sturdy, with none of Lily's spirits able to so much as dent them. Kind of an odd quality in something you would expect to explode.
Swim away! Swim away!
Is the party over?
Next, we see golden doors scattered around the kingdom which are activated by a glowing green switch. While the mechanism is simple enough, they appear acutely clean and modern, as though created using technology the people of Land's End no longer possessed. The green light is especially suspicious. And finally, we get to the Abyss Portal, a literal teleportation device that is fast, safe, and surprisingly stable. While you might be able to explain away all the previous examples, this one is near incontrovertible evidence that, at one point, the ancients had far superior technology. In my video on the true nature of the Blight, I briefly mentioned the possibility that the ancestors of the ancients may have come from the stars, having voyaged far from their home planet as they tracked the elder god that is the Blight, finally ending up on the planet seen in the game, which may very well not be Earth at all. All of the aforementioned objects would have proven very useful for fashioning a craft that could transport people between worlds. You would need a sturdy hull with an entrance hatch, a means of levitation, A power source, perhaps energy-filled crystals, some way to navigate among the stars, and a method of traveling astronomically long distances in the blink of an eye. Am I overthinking this a bit? Absolutely. I'm not really trying to convince you that the ancestors of the ancients were flying spaceships, but the way I see it, why rule out the slim possibility? The truth is, we don't have definitive answers for any of this, and that's okay. Part of the appeal of a game like Ender Lilies is that its many mysteries allow for theories and speculation, even the far-fetched kind like this. My question for all of you is, did you see anything on your journey through Land's End that looked out of place? And do you think Land's End could be taking place in a post-apocalyptic future? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time.